In the final months of that year, people did not die in battles or natural disasters. They died in their beds. They went to sleep with nothing more than a headache or a mild fever and woke up unable to breathe, their bodies burning from the inside out, their lungs filling with fluid, their families powerless to help them. Entire households vanished in days. Cities went quiet. Streets emptied. Hospitals collapsed. And across the planet, one terrifying question echoed in every language. Was this the year humanity almost disappeared? What made this moment so different from every other catastrophe in history was not just the number of deaths, it was the speed. This was not a slow famine or a drawn-out war. This was something that moved faster than armies, faster than ships, faster than governments could react. It traveled invisibly, silently, riding on breath itself. People could not see it, could not fight it, and in the beginning could not even believe it was real. The world, more connected than at any point in human history, had unknowingly built the perfect system for its own collapse. Just weeks before the first global alarms were raised, life was still ordinary. Cities were crowded, airports were full, markets were open, schools were packed. The world was busy, loud, and confident in its systems. Technology had given humanity a sense of control, even invincibility. Diseases, many believed, belonged to the past. We had vaccines, antibiotics, advanced hospitals, global surveillance systems. Humanity had defeated the invisible enemies of earlier centuries. Or so it thought. But beneath this confidence, something ancient was waiting. Somewhere, in a place that did not appear on the nightly news, a microscopic organism crossed a boundary it had never crossed before. A mutation occurred. A virus that had once infected only animals found a way into human cells. And unlike its ancestors, it did not stay local. It learned to spread with terrifying efficiency from human to human. Long before symptoms appeared, long before anyone realized what was happening. The first cases were easy to dismiss. A handful of patients with pneumonia. Doctors assumed it was seasonal flu. Then clusters appeared. Hospitals noticed unusual patterns. Healthy adults were deteriorating rapidly. Some recovered. Many did not. The illness moved in waves. Unpredictable, uneven, but relentless. Still, the world did not panic. Not yet. It was only when entire cities began to fall silent that the reality became impossible to ignore. Ambulance sirens became constant. Emergency rooms overflowed. Doctors worked until they collapsed. Nurses slept on hospital floors. Protective equipment ran out. Ventilators became symbols of survival, then symbols of scarcity. Families were separated. Loved ones died alone, behind plastic barriers, without goodbyes. And outside the hospitals, another collapse was unfolding. Flights were grounded. Borders closed. Supply chains fractured. Supermarket shelves emptied. Economies froze. Streets that had once pulsed with life became eerily still. Major cities looked like abandoned sets from a disaster film. Except this was not fiction. This was real, and no one knew how bad it was about to get. For the first time in generations, humanity faced a truly global threat that did not recognize nationality, wealth, ideology, or power. Presidents fell ill. Prime ministers were hospitalized. Celebrities vanished from public life. Ordinary people became statistics. And the numbers rose day after day, faster than anyone thought possible. But the most dangerous phase had not yet arrived. As the virus spread, it began to change. Each infection was an opportunity for a mutation. Some versions became weaker. Others became deadlier. Some became more contagious. And a few did both. New variants emerged, each more efficient at finding human hosts, each more capable of evading immune defenses. Every mutation pushed the world closer to the edge. In some regions, healthcare systems collapsed entirely. Hospitals turned patients away. Oxygen became more valuable than gold. Crematoriums ran non-stop. Mass graves were dug in places where death had once been rare. In poorer regions, where infrastructure was already fragile, the impact was devastating beyond words. Entire communities lost elders, leaders, teachers, and caregivers in a matter of weeks. Children grew up without grandparents. Families were shattered. Societies lost living memory. And yet, even as the death toll climbed, something darker emerged. Division. Instead of uniting fully against the threat, humanity fractured. Misinformation spread faster than the virus. Rumors, conspiracies, and fear competed with science. Some denied the danger. Others blamed invisible enemies. Tras Erodez, masks became symbols not of protection, but of ideology. Vaccines became battlegrounds not just in laboratories, but in culture, politics, and personal identity. The enemy was invisible, but the conflict was everywhere. Governments faced impossible choices: lock down and destroy economies, or stay open and risk mass death, restrict movement and face unrest, or allow freedom and watch hospitals overflow. No decision was without consequence. Every choice saved some lives and cost others. Leaders were judged in real time, not by history, but by headlines, protests, and social media. And while humans argued, the virus continued its work. At its peak, the world stood on a knife's edge. Mathematical models began projecting numbers that sounded impossible. Tens of millions dead, hundreds of millions infected, entire regions destabilized, famine, conflict, political collapse. Some scientists quietly asked the question no one wanted to hear aloud: could this become an extinction-level event? It was not just a medical crisis. It was a civilizational stress test. The pandemic did not only attack lungs, it attacked trust, systems, economies, relationships, and the very idea that modern life was stable. It revealed how interconnected the world truly was and how fragile that interconnection could be. A virus that began in one place had months reached nearly every corner of the globe. There were no safe zones, no untouched continents. For a moment in history, humanity looked directly at the possibility of its own collapse. But then, something extraordinary happened. Across the world, scientists raced not against each other, but against time. Laboratories worked day and night. Data was shared at speeds never seen before. Genetic sequences were published within hours. Researchers collaborated across borders that politics could not erase. In less than a year, a process that normally took a decade, vaccines were developed, tested, and deployed. This was not just a scientific achievement. It was a survival response. Doctors refined treatments. Hospitals adapted protocols. Communities learned how to protect themselves. Masks, once unfamiliar, became part of daily life. Social behavior? Change. Entire societies rewrote their rules of interaction almost overnight. Human civilization, for all its flaws, demonstrated an ability to adapt at a scale never before witnessed. But survival came at a cost. Millions were dead. Tens of millions more suffered long-term health consequences. Childhoods were interrupted. Mental health crises surged. The psychological scar of isolation, fear, and loss became one of the defining marks of an entire generation. The world did not return to what it was before. It became something else. Work shifted, education transformed. Technology accelerated. Trust in institutions weakened in some places, strengthened in others. Public health became political. Science became cultural. And the memory of mass death, once distant in history books, became personal for billions of people. This was not just a pandemic, it was a turning point. Historians will not remember this year only for the virus. They will remember it as the moment humanity was forced to confront its own vulnerability in an age that believed itself invulnerable. They will study how systems failed and how others held. They will analyze which societies adapted and which fractured. They will debate the decisions, the mistakes, the successes, and the sacrifices. But beyond statistics and policies, beyond graphs and models, what remains is something more profound. The realization that modern civilization, for all its power, still depends on fragile biological systems older than humanity itself. A microscopic organism nearly unraveled a global civilization. And that truth will never disappear, because this was not just about survival. It was about meaning. For centuries, humans believed that progress meant control. Control over nature, control over the future. But this event reminded humanity of something ancient and uncomfortable. Control is an illusion. We exist in balance with forces we cannot see, cannot fully predict, and cannot permanently defeat. Yet, the story does not end in despair. Because even in the darkest moments, when hospitals were overwhelmed, when families said goodbye through screens, when the world seemed to shrink into isolation, something else spread alongside the virus. Resilient people sang from balconies. Neighbors delivered food to the elderly. Scientists worked without sleep. Teachers reinvented education. Communities found new ways to connect. Humanity, faced with extinction-level risk, did not disappear. It adapted. That year became a mirror. It reflected humanity's weaknesses: division, misinformation, inequality, fear. But it also reflected humanity's strengths: innovation, cooperation, compassion. And perhaps the most haunting question of all is not whether humanity almost disappeared, but whether we learned enough to prevent it from happening again. Because pandemics are not relics of the past. They are not medieval nightmares. They're not confined to history books. They're part of the biological reality of life on Earth. They will happen again. The only question is whether humanity will face the next one with the same fragmentation or with greater unity, preparedness, and wisdom. History does not repeat itself exactly, but it does test civilizations in familiar ways. This was one of those tests, and humanity barely passed. Now, the world stands in the aftermath, not just rebuilding systems, but rebuilding trust, rebuilding meaning, and rebuilding a shared sense of responsibility for a planet where one person's breath can affect the fate of billions. So ask yourself, if this was a rehearsal, what will the real test look like? And most importantly, what will humanity choose to become before the next invisible enemy arrives? If this story made you think, share your thoughts in the comments. What do you believe humanity learned from this year? If you want to continue exploring the hidden forces and turning points that shape our world, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Because understanding the past isn't just about remembering, it's about surviving the future